Every once in a while on the Phil Cooke podcast, we go back and look at a podcast that we've done before, but it's worth reconnecting with because it's such a timely topic. Today, we're going to talk about failure. What do you do next when you hit a wall? What happens when the bottom falls out, when you make a mistake? When failure happens, you've got to go on. You can't just stop. Sometimes we think we want to do that, but we really need to move forward. The question is, what do we do? How do we recover? How do we become resilient? Let's go back and listen to what we discussed because I think it could have a really dynamic impact on your career and your life today. What happens when we fail? Certainly, if you've lived very long on this earth, you've failed at something. It may be professional in your career. It may be personally in your family or other relationships. We fail all the time. In fact, I'm a big believer that if you're not failing on a fairly regular basis, you're not pushing the envelope very hard. I wrote in my book, Ideas on a Deadline, How to Be Creative When the Clock is Ticking, that to get great ideas, it takes a lot of ideas. And a lot of those ideas are simply going to fail. I look back over a lot of the ideas that I've had, and I've kind of figured that out of 10 ideas that I'll have, 7 are pretty much junk. Maybe a couple have potential, and then 1 really could actually work. So it's really, really true. If you've come up with just 1 idea and you're pushing that for the rest of your life, your chances of succeeding are not very high. I've seen over and over again, people that can produce more ideas are the people that are likely to have great ideas. But as I said, many of those ideas are going to fail. What do we do? What are the next steps when something fails? What do we do? So it's kind of like the power of resilience. How resilient are you as a creative person, as a leader? Resilience really does matter. Your ability to stand up after being knocked down, your ability to keep going, pushing, even after a significant failure, are going to be the critical keys to tell us how far you're going to go in your career. So let me give you 4 or 5 quick ideas about resilience, about failure, picking it up after that I think could help. Number 1, don't overthink the failure. Very often we just ruminate over it. I have a friend who his wife left him. Wasn't, whatever relationship, whatever difficulties they had, she decided she liked somebody better. So she went off and married somebody else. And yet he spent years, literally years, ruminating on all the details of their relationship. What may have gone wrong, what I could do better. There's no hope here because she's already married somebody else. But he just took so much of his life just going in the wrong direction, just ruminating, thinking. Don't overthink it. I think actors can be the same way. Very often in an audition, you're not picked because of a type. Maybe you don't have blonde hair. Maybe you're not, tall enough. There's a lot of different types out there. So the fact that you didn't get selected or you failed may not be because of you failed. It may not be your issue or your fault. It could be a million other things. So don't necessarily overthink it. We want to go into that deep, dark funk. I just met a friend of mine. She ran for a public office recently, and she said she lost, and she just, for weeks, she went into this spiral about what did I do wrong? How did I screw that up? How did it fail? And you just don't overthink it. It really doesn't help. The second thing is don't take it personally. Try to separate the failure of your project from you. I have friends that you can't criticize their work. You can't offer to help them. You can't even encouraging them because they take it as a sign that you're critical of them, not the project or the work. Learn to separate those two things. I admit it took me a long time as a young creative person to not get offended when my projects would fail or someone would criticize my project or it wasn't accepted. It's hard. But you need to learn that. If you're going to be a professional leader, a professional creative person, learn to separate criticism of the project from criticism of you. Poet Carl Sandburg said, "I sent poems to 2 editors who rejected them right off. I read those letters of rejection years later, and guess what? I agreed with those editors." So you don't know everything. You don't know everything that goes into the selection process. So you may fail, not because of you, not because of anything related to your effort, but because of a million different reasons. So don't take it personally. It's not about you personally. It's about the project. Let's look at the action, the project, the product, whatever it is, the presentation, and see how we can fix that and make it better for the next time. A third thing is get objective advice. When you fail at something, when a project doesn't go the way you wanted, get some objective advice. Don't just go by your boss. Don't just go by your client. I mean, the truth is, your boss, your client may be an idiot. They may not be tuned in. They may have made a really bad decision. But you're never going to know that unless you get a third-party objective. Find somebody who has, the maturity, the professionalism, the sense of excellence that you can really trust, and run it by them. Obviously, they don't know what all went into the decision-making process, but sometimes it's really good to have an objective opinion from the outside just to help you stay on track and understand what worked and what didn't work. I think that it's always good to have that bigger perspective when you get rejected. Number 4, at the moment of rejection, now this is going to be hard, but at the moment you get rejection, try to keep a cool head and talk about what went wrong. We did a proposal for a big nonprofit organization recently, our team at Cooke Media Group, and we didn't get picked. Another agency got picked for the project. And rather than get upset or rather than be, mad or whatever, I called up the client and I said, look, is there anything, I said, I'm not trying to pitch us again. I'm not trying to pressure you. What could we do better? Was there anything particularly about our proposal, about our presentation that maybe wasn't up to snuff, that wasn't as good as it could have been, or didn't hit your target? That could be an issue. So try to keep that cool head, because that information you acquire then can help you the next time you go to bat. And actually, if the person is mature, if your client or your boss or whoever rejected you is mature, they'll realize this could be a teaching moment and I want to try to help them. So try to keep a cool head. And finally, don't let rejections, don't let failure derail your dream. Your career is a much bigger picture thing than any single project. I think it's important to remember that. Much bigger thing than any single project. So don't let it derail your dream. Understand that maybe you could tweak the project. I did a podcast recently on the fact that when your ideas are rejected, put them in a different file and save them for some other project down the road. I always keep a rejection file, because you never know when maybe tweaking that concept, tweaking that idea could work for some other client. I never throw away anything. I think it's really important that whatever creative work you do, keep it, because just with slight modifications, it could work for someone else. So don't let that rejection derail your dream, because it could work really well for somebody else. I love the quote by Sylvester Stallone from Rocky fame. I take rejection as someone blowing a bugle in my ear to wake me up and get me going rather than retreat. So when he gets rejected, he just keeps moving forward. Now, let me give you a couple last thoughts about this whole idea of rejection, because I think it's important. A lot of people ask me, is a day job okay? Should I have a day job? So many people, and I understand, we all want to do our creative dream and focus on that fully, and we don't want to have to work at the coffee shop or sell real estate or whatever we're doing for a day job. But let me tell you some interesting day jobs that some pretty famous creative people had over the years. Novelist Kurt Vonnegut managed a Saab dealership. He was a car dealer during the day, and he kept that dealership long, long past his writing. He was writing and selling cars throughout his career. Composer Philip Glass, the great pianist and composer, was a plumber, a furniture mover, and drove a taxi. He had day jobs throughout his career. Poet T.S. Eliot was a banker. Writer Toni Morrison was a magazine editor and a mom. William Faulkner worked as a postmaster at the University of Mississippi. He was the University of Mississippi's, he ran the post office, but he was writing the most amazing novels ever. Franz Kafka was a bureaucrat. Anthony Trollope was a postal surveyor, and it didn't get in the way of him writing thousands and thousands of pages of amazing fiction. Charlotte Bronte was a governess. Lucky for us, her resentments being a governess came to the surface in books that she wrote, like Jane Eyre. So maybe the frustrations you're experiencing on your day job could help you in the creative work that you're doing. And William Chatterton Dix, I love this, was born in Bristol, England in 1837. He became the manager of a marine insurance company selling insurance for boats in Glasgow, Scotland. And although this was his vocation until the end of his life, he was also a hymn writer. Dix wrote, over the course of his life, he wrote about 40 hymns. A brilliant writer, he wrote hymns that people would be singing 200 years later. and he spent his days managing an insurance agency. So the idea of having a day job there's no shame in that, and there shouldn't be great frustration. Obviously, we want to do what we feel called and gifted to do, but if you have a day job that helps support you and gives you the freedom to do what you do, it's great. It's an awesome thing. Don't worry about it. I would just say two things. That is, figure out how to create a daily ritual around your work. I've talked about this in my book. Again, my book, Ideas on a Deadline, is filled with ideas about that. I have a chapter in there on what I call the Holy Trinity of creativity. Find the place, schedule the time, and get to work. I think those things are so incredibly important. So do it. Get a routine going, because that really helps. Whether you have a day job or not, get the routine, and it'll help you go even beyond getting rejected, and you'll do better work. And the last is understand the power of your story. Like I say, this is the important thing to remember about this episode. Your failure does not define you. Your failure is not about who you are or the quality of your work. Your failure is simply the fact that somebody didn't like it. It may be a client, it may be a boss, it may be the general public, it may be an audience of some kind, your tribe, whoever it is, it doesn't define you. So let's remember these 5 critical things. When we fail, don't overthink it. Don't dwell on it. Don't ruminate it. Move on. 2, don't take it personally. It's not about you. It's about the project. It's about the idea. It's about the presentation. It's not necessarily about you. Number 3, get some objective advice about it. Talk to a third party, someone you trust, someone who's professional, who will help mentor you in some way. Get their advice just to make sure you're not crazy, because very often the client or the boss, they could be idiots. You just never know. And 4, at the moment of rejection, keep a cool head. Ask for advice. Ask for what maybe went wrong, what you could learn from this. Maybe that client or that boss will share with you some ideas that could help you tweak presenting in the future. And then finally, don't let the rejection or the failure derail your dream. Your life is bigger than whatever failure you're experiencing right now. So I don't care how big it is. Like I said, my friend went through a ugly divorce. His wife left him for another man. I've seen actors who didn't get the part. I've seen projects that collapsed at the last minute. I've seen every kind of failure you can imagine, and I've experienced a ton of failure in my career. But that's only stepping stones I use to get to where I want to be. Don't let the failure derail your career. So this is some of the kind of advice that you get in my book, Ideas on a Deadline, How to Be Creative When the Clock is Ticking. I'd urge you, if you haven't gotten it yet, get it. And keep up with what I'm doing at philcooke.com, my blog. Remember, I'm Cooke with an E, Philcooke. So come check out my blog. I'm writing things about the intersection of faith, media, and culture constantly. And I think it could really help you as you're, move forward in your career as a creative leader. And share this. If you know somebody who's gone through a difficult failure, share this with them. It may really help them pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and move on to the next level in their career. Thanks for watching. Give us a rating if you can. It helps us grow and helps more people see it. And I'll see you on the next episode.